My fiancé mocked my late mother's gift. During our rehearsal dinner, so I exposed her true colors publicly and left her family in shock. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and the only thing I have left from my late mother is a necklace she gave me before she passed away. It's small, just a thin silver chain with a tiny sapphire pendant, but to me, it's everything. When I was a kid, she used to tell me, "This stone is for clarity. Whenever life confuses you, hold it, and you'll remember who you are." I didn't understand what she meant back then, but after she died, it became the one piece of her I could still touch, still feel. There are nights when I'd wake up from a dream about her, holding that necklace in my palm, tracing the edges of the stone until the anxiety in my chest calmed down. It's not just jewelry, it's the heartbeat of every memory I still have of her laugh, her smell, the way she used to sing while cooking. Losing her broke something in me that never quite healed, but that necklace somehow kept me grounded. When I met Emily, she was everything I thought I'd been waiting for. Graceful, funny, ambitious. She had this kind of confidence that made you believe she could walk into any room and own it. I fell for her fast. She said she admired how much I valued family, how I wore my heart where people could see it. I truly believed she understood that necklace wasn't just an accessory, it was a part of me. The first time she saw it, she smiled and said, "It's beautiful. I wish I had something that meant that much to me." That moment made me trust her more than I should have. I had no idea that the same necklace, the one my mother's hands once clasped around my neck, would soon become the very thing that revealed who Emily really was. And the worst part? It wouldn't happen in private. When Emily and I first started dating, it felt like a movie. She had this effortless charm, the kind that made everyone lean in when she spoke. We'd spend long nights talking about everything from career goals to childhood dreams. She told me she wanted a simple life with real love, and I believed her. For 2 years, things seemed perfect. She met my family, comforted my dad when he brought up Mom, and even said, "She raised a good man. You must have gotten that from her." It felt genuine. It felt safe. But slowly, the small cracks began to show. At first, it was harmless teasing, her rolling her eyes when I'd mention visiting my mom's grave or calling me sentimental whenever I kept things from my childhood. Then it shifted. She started joking about how I hold on to the past too much. I remember one evening when I placed my mom's necklace on my dresser before bed. Emily looked at it and said, half laughing, "You treat that thing like a person." Her tone was playful, but something in my chest tightened. I brushed it off, told myself she just didn't understand what it meant. She came from a wealthy, image-driven family that didn't talk about emotions. They had their way of showing love through money, not memories. I told myself, different backgrounds, that's all. Still, it bothered me. I started noticing how she'd get defensive whenever I mentioned anything sentimental, like it made her uncomfortable. She wanted control over every detail of our relationship, the house, the future, even my clothes. But I convinced myself that all couples compromise. I didn't see the pattern forming, that she only respected what looked good, not what felt real. The first real warning came the night she met my sister for dinner. That was the night I realized Emily wasn't mocking my necklace. She was mocking everything it stood for. And that night, my sister's expression told me something I didn't want to admit. It was supposed to be a warm, simple dinner, just Emily, my sister Rachel, and me. I wanted them to get along. Rachel's been the one steady person in my life since Mom passed. She's intuitive, no nonsense, and has a sixth sense when it comes to people's intentions. Emily had met her once or twice in passing, but this was the first real sit-down. I reserved a small Italian place Rachel loved, nothing fancy, just authentic and comforting. The kind of place Mom used to take us when we were younger. Emily showed up late, dressed like she was headed to a gala, heels clicking too sharply on the tile. She gave Rachel one of those tight, insincere smiles and said, "Cute place, very homey." From the start, it was awkward. Rachel tried to be warm, asking about Emily's job, her hobbies. Emily answered politely, but always turned the conversation back to wedding planning, venues, dress designers, guest lists. She even brought up how she was thinking of having a social media moment at the ceremony. I watched Rachel's face tighten when Emily referred to my mom's necklace as that emotional trinket you're obsessed with. Rachel didn't say anything right away. She just looked at me. That kind of look that says, "You sure about this?" I tried to change the subject, but Emily wouldn't let it go. She laughed and added, "Don't worry, I won't make him wear it in the wedding photos. I want our pictures to look elegant, not like a tribute." The silence after that was unbearable. Even the waiter hesitated to approach. Rachel finally stood up, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Thanks for dinner. I hope the wedding is everything you dreamed." She didn't even look at Emily. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner was the turning point. That was the night the foundation beneath me started to shift, and the next event would break it wide open. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be a celebration. A final toast before vows. A moment for both families to come together before everything changed. Emily's parents had gone all out, rented a rooftop event space downtown, complete with string lights, champagne towers, and a private chef. It was beautiful, I'll admit, but it didn't feel like me. As I walked through the entrance, I caught sight of Emily posing for photos with her bridesmaids, the hem of her designer dress trailing behind her like she was royalty. She looked stunning, but there was something cold in the way she looked past people instead of at them. My dad couldn't make it. His health had taken a dip. But Rachel was there, standing off to the side with her arms crossed. She gave me a smile when I walked in, but I could tell she was tense. She always got like that when she felt protective. I had worn a navy blue button-up and kept my mother's necklace tucked beneath it. It wasn't visible, but I knew it was there. I felt calmer with it on, grounded like Mom was watching me. Emily noticed right away. As we hugged, she felt the chain and immediately pulled back. "Wait, are you wearing that necklace again?" she asked, her voice hushed but sharp. I nodded, confused. "Yeah, just under the shirt." She laughed quietly, leaned in closer, and said, "Baby, this is our night. Can we not make it about your mom again? It's weird." The word weird hit like a slap. I didn't even know what to say. Before I could respond, she was already turning away, greeting some distant cousin like nothing had happened. I stood there, stunned, watching her float from guest to guest like a host on autopilot. And all I could think about was how something sacred had just been turned into something inconvenient. But I stayed quiet, and that silence would cost me. It started like any other rehearsal dinner toast, lighthearted, bubbly, full of inside jokes meant to charm the room. Emily took the mic and tapped her glass gently, flashing that practiced smile. Everyone fell silent, expecting something sweet. "I just want to say," she began, "that planning this wedding has been a dream." "Well, mostly," laughter. A few chuckles from her bridesmaids. She turned toward me, her eyes gleaming. "You know, marrying someone who's sentimental has its moments. Like the necklace. Oh my God, you guys should have seen it. He wears this old silver chain with a blue rock on it, like a magical amulet or something." A few people laughed. I didn't, she kept going. "He says it's from his mom, which is super sweet, I guess, but sometimes I feel like I'm marrying him in his grief." More laughter. Nervous now, uncertain. Even the DJ stopped adjusting cables and looked up. My throat tightened. I wasn't sure if I'd heard her right. She added, "Honestly, I've told him we should get him a new necklace. Maybe one that doesn't scream trauma, right?" My sister's chair screeched back. Her fork clattered onto her plate. I felt the air shift, somewhere between disbelief and disgust. I looked around. Emily's parents were still smiling, sipping their wine like this was just quirky banter. I stood up, but I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. Rachel touched my elbow and whispered, "You don't have to take this." I didn't say a word. I just left the table, my heart pounding so loudly I thought I might pass out. I walked out to the balcony, staring at the city skyline, trying to breathe, and that's when I realized she didn't just mock a necklace. She mocked the one person who made me who I am, and she did it with a smile on her face. I stood outside on the rooftop balcony, the wind biting against my skin. The city stretched beneath me, lights flickering, cars honking far below, but all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I didn't know what to do. My fiancé had just turned my mother's memory into a punchline. And worse? People laughed. Not because it was funny, but because they were too polite, too frozen to do anything else. I gripped the railing, trying to keep it together. I didn't want to cry, not here, not now. A few minutes later, Rachel joined me. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood beside me, arms crossed, jaw tight. Then she whispered, "You're not going to marry her, right?" I blinked. What? Rachel turned to face me. You don't see it, but I do. She doesn't respect you. She doesn't respect Mom. That was her testing you in front of everyone, seeing how much she could get away with. I didn't want to hear it. I wasn't ready. I was still clinging to this version of Emily I had fallen in love with. The one who smiled at me over wine, who made future plans, who kissed my forehead when I got anxious. I shook my head. Maybe she just got carried away. It was supposed to be lighthearted. Rachel cut me off. She's been mocking your grief, your loyalty, your history. That necklace is part of your soul, and she made you the punchline of your own mother's memory. You think she'll change after marriage? Just then, 2 of Emily's bridesmaids stepped out onto the balcony, giggling. They didn't see us at first. One of them said, "God, did you hear her roast him about that necklace? She's hilarious." The other laughed. She said it's like he's still breastfeeding off his mom's ghost. They both froze when they noticed us. Their laughter died instantly. Rachel stared at me. "Still think this is just a joke?" And that's when the last thread snapped. I didn't say a word to them. I just turned around and walked back inside, the heat rising behind my eyes already gone cold. Something inside me had gone quiet. So quiet it scared me. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. The kind my mom used to talk about. Emily spotted me the second I stepped back in. She rushed over, her face a mix of guilt and annoyance. "Hey babe, are you okay?" I didn't mean anything with the speech. "You know I joke when I'm nervous," I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know," she tilted her head. "You're not mad, right? Don't let something small ruin our night," I smiled. "No, not mad at all." She relaxed instantly, touching my arm and turning back toward the guests. That's when I realized she wasn't worried about hurting me. She was worried about appearances, about whether I'd embarrass her in front of her curated crowd, and that's when I remembered something. She had handed me her phone earlier to show the DJ her playlist. In the rush of everything, she'd never asked for it back. It was still in my jacket pocket. Out of curiosity, or maybe instinct, I pulled it out and opened the messages with her maid of honor, Jenna. I don't know what I expected, but what I saw made my stomach drop. Screenshots, messages between them joking about me, still clinging to Mommy's ashes. Emily calling me soft and perfect husband material if you want someone spineless. She even texted, "He'll do whatever I say. Just tear up a little and mention his mom. Works every time." The blood drained from my face. I backed up the messages, screenshot everything, and quietly tucked the phone away. No yelling. No drama. I wasn't going to fight anymore. I was going to expose her. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my hotel bed, staring at the necklace resting in my palm. I thought about my mother, how she would have seen through Emily in a heartbeat, how she would have told me that love without respect is just a performance. The pain was sharp, but my mind was clear. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It was about standing up for myself, for my mom, for everything I've swallowed quietly over the last 2 years. By 2 a.m., I had a plan. I called my best friend Marcus, who was already in town for the wedding. I asked him to meet me in the hotel lobby and bring his laptop. When I showed him the screenshots, his face went pale. He didn't even ask questions, just nodded and said, "What do you want to do?" We worked through the night. I had already backed up all the messages from Emily's phone and screen recorded everything. Marcus helped me stitch together a short video montage, the screenshots, a few clips from her rehearsal dinner speech, and one single photo of me and my mom, me as a kid, wearing that same necklace. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't flashy. It was honest. Cruelty, side by side with sentiment. Then I called the wedding coordinator and asked if I could have a moment during the reception for a surprise tribute to my late mother. She said, of course. I made sure she knew Marcus would handle the projector and laptop. When I returned to the bridal suite later that morning, Emily greeted me like nothing had happened. "Kiss my cheek." Called me her rock, I smiled back. Told her I couldn't wait to marry her because in that moment, she believed she'd won, and that made what was coming even more satisfying. The venue looked like something out of a magazine. Rose petals lining the aisle, golden chairs in perfect symmetry, candles flickering in clear glass lanterns. Emily had planned every inch of it, and to her credit, it was flawless. At least on the surface. I stood at the altar, wearing a tailored suit and the necklace tucked under my shirt. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt still, Like I was finally doing what I should have done the moment she mocked my mom's memory. Guests were seated. The string quartet played something soft and romantic. Emily appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in her gown, arm looped through her father's. She was glowing, smiling like the cameras were all that mattered. As she walked toward me, I saw her mouth something to her maid of honor. They both giggled. The same smirk I'd seen the night before. She reached me, took my hands. The officiant welcomed everyone, made a few light-hearted remarks. Then came the part where we were supposed to share our personal vows. I stepped forward, took a deep breath. I'd like to start, I said, with a small tribute. Not just to the woman I was about to marry, but to the woman who made me who I am. My mother, the coordinator gave the nod. Marcus pressed play. The projector lit up. At first, a photo, my mom smiling, holding me as a baby. Then came the texts, Emily's words in bold, brutal honesty. The mocking, the manipulation, the plan to use tears to control him. Laughter from the rehearsal dinner, screenshots, her voice saying, "Let's not make it about your mom again." The room fell silent. No gasps, just stunned, ice-cold stillness. Emily let go of my hand. Her face turned white. Her father stood up, fists clenched. Her mother was already whispering behind a napkin. I turned to the guests and said calmly, "I won't be marrying someone who laughs at my grief and disrespects my mother's memory. Thank you all for coming." Then I walked away. I didn't turn back. Not even once. I walked straight down the aisle and out of the venue, while the stunned silence behind me slowly cracked into chaos. The murmurs grew louder, chairs scraping, people standing, Emily's voice shrieking somewhere behind me. "It's not what it looks like!" It was a joke. He's being dramatic. The door shut behind me with a soft click, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Rachel was waiting outside. She didn't say a word, just pulled me into a tight hug. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. Inside, I knew it was unraveling. Marcus later told me that Emily tried to salvage the moment, begging guests to stay for the reception. But most people left. Some out of discomfort, others out of disgust. Her own aunt apparently called her behavior cruel and disturbing. Her father demanded answers. Her mother was furious about the public embarrassment. And the wedding coordinator? She was already calling the florist and catering to cancel what she could. I got texts later, dozens of them. From friends, from relatives, even from guests I barely knew. Some said, "I didn't know it was that bad." Others wrote things like, "You did the right thing, and she showed her true colors and you handled it with class." But in the quiet of my hotel room that night, I still felt hollow. It wasn't the ruined wedding. It wasn't the money lost or the embarrassment. It was the grief of letting go, not just of Emily, but of the future I thought we were building. I stared at the necklace on the nightstand. My mom's necklace. The only thing that stayed true through it all, and I finally cried, not out of heartbreak, but because I'd finally stopped betraying myself to keep someone else comfortable, and that was the beginning of something new. The days that followed were strangely quiet. I didn't post anything, didn't explain, didn't defend myself. I didn't need to. The video had done that for me. Emily, on the other hand, tried everything: damage control, vague Instagram captions about being blindsided, even implying I had exaggerated the messages. But screenshots have a funny way of speaking louder than curated posts. Rachel told me people in Emily's own circle had started distancing themselves. Her bridesmaids were split, some embarrassed, some furious she'd dragged them into it. And apparently, one of them leaked the entire conversation thread to a wedding gossip page. It went viral. I didn't ask for that, but I didn't stop it either. Meanwhile, I disappeared. I spent time with my dad, helped him plant tomatoes in his backyard. I took a weekend trip to the mountains, no service, no noise. Just me and silence. And my mom's necklace, always around my neck. Healing didn't come all at once. Some mornings I'd still wake up with that tightness in my chest, reaching for a presence that wasn't there. But slowly it got easier. The flashbacks stopped feeling like wounds and started feeling like lessons. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since high school. I wrote to my mom, told her everything. The rehearsal dinner, the balcony, the moment I chose to walk away. I thanked her for teaching me to value love with depth, not decoration. Rachel visited often. We laughed more now. Talked about things other than pain. She told me, "You look lighter." like something finally let go of you. She was right.
I had let go of the illusion of the performance,
Of the need to be someone else just to be loved, and somewhere in that release, I started finding myself again. A few months later, on what would have been my mom's 60th birthday, I visited her grave for the first time since the wedding. I brought fresh lilies, her favorite, and wore the necklace, now resting gently outside my shirt instead of tucked away like a secret. The cemetery was quiet. No traffic sounds, no people. Just the wind rustling through trees and the occasional chirp of a bird. I knelt beside her headstone and just sat there for a while, fingers brushing over her name, the engraved quote she used to repeat, "The heart knows its own truth." I spoke aloud, voice calm. "I walked away, Mom, I did it. I didn't let her twist what you gave me into something small or silly. I finally saw her clearly. And I think, in a way, I saw myself clearly too." A tear rolled down my cheek, but it wasn't sadness. It was release. I told her about the wedding, the video, the messages, the walkout. About how it felt like everyone saw who I really was for the first time. Not the quiet, soft guy clinging to grief, but a man who drew a line. A man who remembered what mattered and refused to let it be mocked. Before I stood to leave, I unclasped the necklace and laid it across the headstone for a moment. Not to give it up, but to say, I carried you with me. And I still do. Then I smiled. For real this time. As I walked back to my car, I realized I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was just free. Emily's name doesn't sting anymore. I don't follow what she's doing. I don't care who she's with. She was a chapter, not the whole book. And if there's one thing I know now, it's this. Real love doesn't mock your pain. It holds it with reverence.